My aunt has been battling various cancers for the past decade. In 2020, during the COVID lockdown, our family had a close call, and we ended up living with her for half of the year. Little did we know that this would be the start of some truly eerie and unexplainable experiences. My aunt rented the upstairs of a 3-bedroom house, so my sister and I had to sleep in the living room. It was there that I had my first paranormal encounter. Around 2:30 a.m., I heard distinct footsteps walking down the hallway from the bedrooms towards the living room and kitchen area. The sound stopped right at the foot of the couch before walking back down the hall. I wasn't the only one who heard it. My cousin and aunt, who lived there, also reported hearing these disembodied footsteps pacing the hallway. The bathroom in the house seemed to be a hotspot for paranormal activity. My cousins mentioned hearing things being moved around while they were showering. One day, while I was talking to my cousin and applying makeup in front of the mirror, something extraordinary happened. Out of the corner of our eyes, we both saw a small, yellow object materialize out of thin air. It was my little sister's Pokemon toy, which appeared to float briefly before being placed perfectly on the ground at an incredible speed. When we shared this experience with everyone, my sister revealed that her Pokemon toy had been on the nightstand in the other room. A few days later, my mom and I were sitting in a bedroom across the hall from the bathroom when something bizarre occurred. My mom was putting on her shoes, and I was looking at my phone when she suddenly exclaimed, "Did you see that?" I confirmed that I had. We both witnessed a small, black object, about the size of a small bouncy ball, materialize out of thin air. It seemed to be thrown across the floor and rolled directly in front of our feet before disappearing under the bed we were sitting on. Curious, my mom asked me to quickly check under the bed, but I was too afraid of what I might see, so she took a look and found nothing there. Another chilling experience happened after a long day of visiting various family members in different cities. Exhausted, I went straight to bed upon returning to my aunt's house. As I was drifting off to sleep, I was startled by the piercing cry of a baby. It sounded as if it was coming from the apartment downstairs, but the young couple who lived there didn't have any children. I asked my cousin and sister if they heard the crying, but they looked at me with puzzled expressions and said they hadn't heard a thing. I was taken aback because the cries were so loud. The next morning, when I shared this experience with my aunt, she recounted a strange incident they had earlier that year. On the morning of a very early doctor's appointment, they discovered little barefoot footprints in the snow leading away from their house. The footprints were the size of a child's, but there were no footprints leading back. They simply vanished at the sidewalk. These paranormal encounters left us with a sense of awe and mystery. While some may dismiss them as mere coincidences or tricks of the mind, our shared experiences and the unexplainable nature of these events have made us believers in the supernatural. We may never fully understand what happened in that house, but it has certainly made us more open to the possibility that there are forces beyond our comprehension. Alright, I'll do my best to recount the strange experience I had recently. I must confess, I'm not one to easily believe in the paranormal, but some unexplained events have made me question my skepticism. My family and I live in a 2-bedroom townhome, and we've been here for over 4 years. The place is relatively new, around 20 years old, so I never thought it could be haunted or anything like that. However, we've had some incidents in the past that gave off a weird vibe, particularly around our stairs. My husband, who claims to have seen things, believes there's an entity on the stairs. And to add to the mystery, a while back, I saw something strange reflecting on the living room TV, facing the stairs, but couldn't quite make out what it was. We have cats, and they don't seem bothered by anything, which provides some reassurance. We also have children, and they occasionally say spooky things about the window and not liking the lights off, but I've chalked it up to normal childhood fears. However, last night was quite an odd experience. I usually keep a light on when I go to the bathroom at night or turn on the hallway light, especially because the stairs give me a bit of an uneasy feeling. But last night, when I went to the bathroom and flipped the switch, the lights didn't turn on. It was unusual because we have 3 bulbs, and all of them seemed to have stopped working simultaneously. Though I wasn't scared, I found it strange, so I just went about my business and returned to bed. Surprisingly, the next morning, the lights were working fine, and there hadn't been any power outage since the hall light was still on. I shared this odd occurrence with my husband, and he responded quite seriously. He warned me that if it happened again, I should either go back to bed or use the downstairs bathroom. He also advised against looking out the window in the upstairs bathroom. Though he didn't explain much about the entity, his words made me curious, so I decided to seek more information online. I live in South Carolina, and I wondered if there might be any local lore or legends related to this. Adding to my intrigue, I sometimes get strange feelings at night, like something is watching or following me. I once used an app claiming to detect paranormal activity, and it seemed to show something right on top of me. But I'm not easily scared, so I'd rather tell any presence to knock it off than hide under the covers. Interestingly, my husband and his mother, who identifies as a witch, claim to have seen things too. At her house, I've smelled peculiar scents, which my husband calls the native. My instincts seem to pick up on things, but my sight remains unaffected. I don't smell anything odd in my own home, but occasionally I sense fleeting shadows or movements. With all these experiences, I can't help but wonder what exactly I'm dealing with. While I don't sense hostility, there's definitely curiosity. My husband advises against interacting with it, but I won't let it prevent me from using my own bathroom. I also recall a strange incident in the kitchen when I felt an inexplicable cold presence next to me. Despite the stove and surroundings being warm, it was the first time I truly felt something beyond instinct. And just last night, we heard a giggle. Yes, an audible giggle. Nothing out of the ordinary happened during my bathroom trip, and the light worked fine. However, my cat scratching the closet door led to the eerie laughter. It sent chills down my spine, and I panicked, asking my husband to check inside. Of course, there was nothing there. Our kids were asleep, so it wasn't them. It sounded like those creepy giggles you hear in movies with children. So now I'm left wondering if it's a child spirit or something else entirely. Either way, it's clear that there's something peculiar going on in our home. My husband heard the giggle too, which is unusual since he never wakes up easily. Despite all these strange occurrences, I refuse to let fear control me. I'm determined to figure out what's happening and maintain my composure. Whether it's paranormal or not, I believe in confronting the unknown rather than cowering from it. Let's hope I can get to the bottom of this mystery soon. Let me take you back to a peculiar incident from my teenage years, a story that still sends shivers down my spine. It's hard to explain and even harder to dismiss as a mere figment of my imagination. Brace yourselves as I recount this eerie encounter that unfolded in the depths of my past. During my late teens, I found myself seeking comfort in the basement of the house I grew up in. That dimly lit space, where the rhythmic hum of the dryer provided a strange sense of solace, became my haven. Now, it's important to note that nothing unusual or unsettling had ever occurred in that house before this particular incident. It was a place of familiarity and security, or so I believe. On that fateful night, I was roused from my slumber in the small hours. Groggy and disoriented, I peered into the darkness, only to find a ghostly figure standing before the dryer, right at the foot of my mattress. The woman, draped in clothing reminiscent of the Old West, possessed a transparent quality that defied logical explanation. Her hair, neatly pulled back in a bun, accentuated the air of antiquity that enveloped her. As I lay there, bewildered and trying to make sense of this ethereal presence, she held a laundry basket, nothing out of the ordinary at first glance. However, what unfolded next shattered any semblance of normalcy. With a deliberate motion, she tilted the basket towards me, causing an otherworldly deluge of translucent laundry to cascade forth. The garments, bundled together like the laundry we're accustomed to, seemed to materialize out of thin air. This bewildering spectacle unfolded in a matter of seconds, leaving me paralyzed with fear. Reacting instinctively to this unearthly encounter, I jolted backward in terror, crashing into a heap of cardboard boxes filled with forgotten household items. The commotion I caused awakened my family, who rushed downstairs to investigate the source of the disturbance. But by the time they switched on the lights, the apparition had vanished, leaving me alone with the lingering remnants of fear that clung to the air. In the aftermath of that chilling experience, I continued to sleep in the basement until I eventually moved out a year later. Strange as it may seem, no further visitations occurred, and if not for the vividness with which the memory remains etched in my mind, I might have dismissed it as a trick of the imagination. Yet, I cannot deny the profound impact it had on me, forever challenging my skepticism and forcing me to acknowledge the existence of inexplicable forces that lie just beyond the realm of comprehension. In my years of working in trauma scene cleanup, I've encountered numerous chilling and eerie scenes, each leaving an indelible mark on my mind. While most incidents were grim and disturbing, there was one particular job that stood out as an enigma, an experience that defied explanation and left me questioning the boundaries between the physical and the paranormal. Managing a dedicated crew tasked with restoring scenes of violence and tragedy, I approached every assignment with professionalism and a sense of responsibility. Our goal was not only to remove biohazards, but also to visually restore the environment, ensuring it appeared as normal as possible to any unsuspecting visitor. One stormy afternoon, we received a dispatch call that took us to an affluent neighborhood nestled amidst the picturesque hills. As we approached the location, the rain poured heavily and dark clouds loomed ominously in the sky, giving the surroundings an eerie and haunting atmosphere. Upon arrival, we were met by a representative who seemed like an attorney or real estate broker. He was curt and businesslike, swiftly signing the necessary paperwork and handing us the keys to the property. There was no detailed explanation of the incident. It was a strict exchange of formalities. He merely mentioned that we were welcome to dispose of anything required for the cleanup and asked us to send an invoice to his office for processing. With that, he departed, leaving us to our task. As my crew and I entered the house, we were struck by its grandeur. The opulent furnishings and luxurious decor hinted at the wealth of the previous occupants. However, something felt off. Despite the lavishness, the atmosphere inside the house felt strangely cold and lifeless. My crew, consisting of seasoned professionals and newer members, seemed to sense it too. The unease in the air was palpable. We proceeded with our usual protocols, preparing ourselves for the grim task ahead. However, as we delved deeper into the master bedroom, the epicenter of the tragedy, we began to realize that this was no ordinary crime scene. The dried blood, instead of displaying the fresh crimson hue we were accustomed to, had darkened with age, appearing almost black. It was as if the incident had occurred many years ago, which perplexed us, as we usually dealt with recent occurrences. My newer crew members, who had joined our ranks to learn the ropes, were visibly spooked. The unsettling aura of the house, coupled with the mysterious age of the tragedy, gave them pause. But, as professionals, we knew our job and forged ahead, determined to complete our task meticulously. As we progressed with our cleanup, an unexpected visitor arrived, a frail and elderly gentleman in an elegant Mercedes. His face was etched with concern as he questioned our presence. At first, he appeared agitated, but upon seeing our dispatch papers, he seemed to relax slightly. He mentioned that he lived next door and had noticed the activity in the house. Worried about potential troublemakers, he decided to investigate. During our brief exchange, he revealed that the house had been vacant for many years after a tragic incident that occurred decades ago. However, he offered no further details, stating only that it was a tragic event that had left the house uninhabited ever since. His reluctance to share specifics only deepened the sense of mystery surrounding the property. Despite the inexplicable age of the incident, we diligently carried out our duties. The atmosphere inside the house remained heavy, like an oppressive weight pressing down upon us. It felt as if the very walls held a story, one that we were not meant to fully comprehend. As the storm outside continued to rage, we finished our work and left the property. Back at the office, I handed over the paperwork, including the 35mm film with photographs of the scene. To our dismay, when the film was processed, the images turned out to be marred with strange blotches and smudges, rendering them almost unrecognizable. Speculation circulated among us regarding the cause of the ruined photographs. Some blamed it on the storm, while others entertained the notion of something supernatural interfering with our documentation. But ultimately, we could not explain the bizarre occurrence. To this day, that haunting experience remains etched in my memory, an enigma that defies logical explanation. It serves as a poignant reminder that not all mysteries can be solved, and some stories are meant to remain untold. As I continue my work, I approach each scene with reverence, knowing that behind every tragedy lies a human story, some forgotten, some forever haunting the places they once called home. And while my job is to restore order and cleanliness, there are moments when I wonder if I'm merely a spectator in the tapestry of life's inexplicable events. In the wake of that haunting experience at the house with the malevolent energy, I couldn't help but feel a lingering sense of unease. The image of the blood-soaked writings on the wall continued to replay in my mind, and I found myself delving into research about the house's history and the tragic events that had unfolded there. I discovered that the house had been owned by the same family for generations. It was passed down from one generation to another, and it seemed that the house had witnessed an unusual number of deaths. The first recorded tragedy was in the early 1940s when a family member committed suicide in what was now the master bedroom. The chain of sorrow continued with subsequent generations, each one experiencing a tragic loss within the same walls. Curiosity led me to speak with neighbors, hoping to uncover any additional information. Some neighbors spoke of peculiar occurrences around the property. They shared eerie tales of shadowy figures glimpsed through windows, strange noises in the night, and an overall sense of foreboding when passing by the house. One elderly neighbor recounted a chilling story about a young boy who used to live there many years ago. The boy was known to be shy and withdrawn, and people would often see him wandering aimlessly around the house late at night. Then, one night, the boy vanished without a trace, leaving the neighborhood in shock. No one knew what had happened to him, and the mystery remained unsolved. As I delved deeper into the history of the house, I came across accounts of previous occupants claiming to have encountered paranormal activities. Some even believed that malevolent spirits were responsible for the family's tragic fate. Others suggested that the house itself held a dark energy that attracted misery and despair. Intrigued and somewhat disturbed by these revelations, I shared my findings with my crew. Some were dismissive, attributing it to urban legends and coincidences. However, a few members who had experienced the chilling atmosphere firsthand were more open to the possibility of something beyond explanation. One of my crew members, a skeptic turned curious, decided to visit the local library to dig deeper into the house's history. He found old newspaper clippings and journal entries detailing the tragedies that had befallen the family over the years. The more he read, the more he became convinced that there was indeed an unsettling pattern surrounding the house. As time passed, rumors about the house's haunted past spread among the community. Many regarded it as a place to avoid, even during the day. Urban explorers and paranormal enthusiasts started showing interest in the house, hoping to catch a glimpse of the malevolent spirits that were said to inhabit it. One particular night, a group of teenagers decided to challenge the house's reputation and explore its secrets. Armed with cameras and flashlights, they entered the property, but as they ventured further inside, they encountered inexplicable cold spots, disembodied whispers, and unexplained shadows that seemed to dance along the walls. Their bravado quickly dissipated, and they rushed out of the house, vowing never to return. Their encounter only fueled the house's notoriety, and soon enough, local media picked up the story, turning the house into a focal point of fascination and fear. As the story spread, so did the legend of the House of Despair. Some even claimed that it was cursed, bringing misery to all who set foot inside. These tales, while often embellished, perpetuated the aura of malevolence that clung to the house. Despite the urban legends and the chilling accounts, the truth remained elusive. Was it all a product of imagination, collective fear, and coincidence? Or was there truly something otherworldly at play within the house's walls? As I continued my work in trauma scene cleanup, I couldn't help but wonder about the mysteries surrounding that house and the tragic events that had unfolded there. To this day, I remember the blood-soaked writings on the wall, a haunting reminder of the unknown and the inexplicable forces that may dwell among us.